Domain expansion is considered a supreme technique in Jujutsu Kaisen that makes a person much stronger and more powerful compared to any normal individual. Although there are many powerful individuals in Jujutsu Kaisen, so far we have only seen 12 domain expansions, which I'm gonna explain in this video. When a person casts domain expansion, we observe some noticeable elements such as performing a specific hand sign before casting their domain. Secondly, they construct a large artificial environment. These environments offer a significant advantage in a fight. For example, normal sorcerers can turn to ash the moment they enter Jogo's domain due to the intense heat. And when anyone gets trapped in Gojo's domain, you know what happens to them, right? While constructing an environment, individuals covers it with a barrier that appears as a black spear from the outside and imbues their curse technique with the barrier. This helps the domain caster to kill their opponent with that curse technique, ensuring a guaranteed hit. To know more about how domain expansion works in detail, watch the video from description. So let's see what the 12 domain expansions are and how powerful they are. In the last place, I positioned the smallpox deity. It's a special grade diseased curse spirit. With its domain expansion, the graveyard domain, it traps its opponent in a coffin. Then with its curse technique, it drops a giant gravestone on top of the coffin, burying it underground. Then the curse spirit begins to count from 3. If anyone does not escape from that coffin within 3 seconds, they will get infected with smallpox and die. Even though it's a special grade curse spirit, it couldn't defeat a grade 1 sorcerer Meme, and anti-domain techniques like simple domain work just fine against this domain, allowing the sorcerer to escape without any harm. That's why I placed it at the lowest rank. Next one is Megumi's domain, Chimera Shadow Garden. I know that Megumi's 10 shadow technique can effortlessly complement his domain, making him stronger and more powerful. But his domain is currently incomplete, and in recent manga chapters, his life update is getting even worse. Megumi's domain does not have a barrier, so it does not grant a sure hit attack. However, casting his domain enhances his 10 shadows technique. Inside his domain, he can manipulate shadows such as creating shadow clones of himself and his shikigamis, as well as summoning numerous frogs that constantly restrain his opponents, rendering them unable to stand and fight. Next one is Hiromi Higuruma's deadly sentencing. Higurama's domain does not have a sure hit effect as it's a non-lethal domain. He constructs a courtroom inside his domain, which is fitting since he is a lawyer. Inside his domain, a shikigami appears known as the judgment, and he imposes certain rules within his domain by applying binding vows that turns the whole scenario into a trial. The rules dictates that both Higurama and his opponent can resort to violence inside his domain. Both Higurama and his opponent are allowed to make one statement about the case. While the opponent makes a statement, they can choose to remain silent, deny the accusation, lie, or simply confess. After both Higurama and his opponent have made their statement, Higurama receives an envelope containing information about the case. But this information is not shared with his opponent. However, Higurama is informed of the contents of the envelope by the judgment. If they found guilty, they can ask for a retrial. The judgment delivers the verdict confiscation, which prevents the opponent from using curse technique. If they do not possess any curse technique, then they can't use their cursed energy. Depending upon the severity of the crime, they may receive the death penalty. Upon receiving the death penalty, Higurama is given an executioner's sword, and anyone struck by it will immediately die. The next one is Naoya Zenin's domain expansion, Time Cell Moon Palace. Naoya's domain constructs a straight path of flesh that leads to a large eye. Anyone who moves within the domain must abide by the 24 FPS rule of projection sorcery, or the sure hit effect of the domain inject animation frames into his targets. The 24 FPS rule means that in Naoya's mind, 1 second is divided into 24 set of predetermined movements, which he decides. In this 1 second, he carries out these predetermined movements, keeping frames as he wishes. Hypothetically, let's say he has to run to a spot 240 meters away. Now he can divide this entire motion into running 10 meters in every frame, and in 1 second, he will be at his final destination. Thus, an illusion illusion of speed is generated in his opponent's mind. His opponent will have to do the same to abide by the 24 FPS rule, which they can't, and they ended up getting frozen or attacked. The next one is Dagon's Domain, a Risen of Captivating Skanda. Dagon's Domain features a sure hit attack that allows the Shikigami, the sea creatures that he creates, to automatically hit their target. These Shikigamis appear suddenly, making them nearly impossible to block, as they do not exist until they hit their target. Although it is considered as a calm domain, it is very dangerous, as 3 grade 1 sorcerers, Maki, Nanami and Naobito Zenin, become trapped inside, and all 3 of them had a hard time fighting Dagon, and later Megumi and Toji came to help them. The next one is Jogo's Domain, Coffin of the Iron Mountain. Jogo's Domain is constructed around an active volcano, large stones and magma. The extreme heat produced in this environment can easily incinerate an average sorcerer the moment they enter into this domain. With his curse technique, he can manipulate large stones and magma to attack his opponent within his domain. Jogo has a maximum technique that can generate a gigantic flaming meteor, which he can hurl at his opponent, causing immense destruction upon impact. Despite having such a deadly domain, fate was cruel to Jogo, because the only 2 opponents he fought in his entire life were first Gojo and lastly Sukuna, in which he died. The next one is Mahito's Domain, Self-Embodiment of Perfection. Mahito cast his domain after performing hand signs in his mouth. When he expands his domain, giant hands appear, forming a flower-like shape. Connected to these hands, multiple arms appear, creating a net-like pattern that traps his opponents. Mahito possesses a curse technique called Ideal Transfiguration, with which he can manipulate the shape of his soul, transforming his hand into weapons. He can also manipulate the shape of other people's soul, either healing them or turning them into transfigured humans. Ideal Transfiguration affects others when Mahito directly touches them. However, inside his domain, he does not necessarily need to touch his opponent. With the domain's sure hit attack, his curse technique will automatically target and attack his opponent. The next one is Yorozu's Domain, Threefold Affliction. Yorozu was one of the strongest sorcerer from the 1000-year-old Heian era. Her innate curse technique is Construction, with which she can create anything she recognizes, except for special curse tools. Creating something from nothing uses a lot of cursed energy, making this technique energy inefficient compared to other cursed techniques. She uses liquid metal as her primary weapon, which allows her to create a flesh armor that enhances her strength, speed, and durability, improving all her close-range combat abilities. She can even create a true spear. Under normal conditions, a perfect spear is thought to be impossible to create. Yorozu was able to do so by shaping it from liquid metal. A true spear has no contact area and generates infinite pressure, which makes it untouchable. Yorozu's domain is mostly an empty space with some fungus-like structure floating within. The sure hit effect of the domain applies to Yorozu's constructed items, including the true spear. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the true spear in action against Sukuna, because before that could happen, she died at the hand of Sukuna. The next one is Kinji Hakairi's domain expansion, Ideal Death Gamble. Hakairi's domain is based on a real-life pachinko machine and takes its theme from a romance manga series called Private Pure Love Train. All the rules of the game are transferred into the opponent's brain through the domain's sure hit effect. As it based on a pachinko machine, Hakairi needs to hit the jackpot to activate his unkillable mode, but the chances are 1 in 239. Once Hakairi hits the jackpot, he receives a bonus that grants unlimited cursed energy and a fully automatic reverse curse technique for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, which is also the duration of the Private Pure Love Train theme song Admiring You. During this 4 minutes and 11 seconds, Hakairi becomes unkillable. After the time runs out, Hakairi's cursed energy replenishes, which is used to cast the current domain. So now Hakairi can cast his domain again, and after hitting the jackpot in second domain, he can recast his third domain and then fourth and so on. He can literally cast his domain as many times as he pleases. The next one is Kenjaku's domain expansion, Profusion. Kenjaku and Sukuna are the only sorcerers who can expand their domain without a barrier, yet still retain the sure hit attack of their domain. When Kenjaku expands his domain, a tower appears that looks like numerous cursed spirit faces all merged together. The domain's sure hit attack will be hit with explosive force, but the nature of the attack is unknown. But nothing scarier than the unknown, right? For now, this much information we have about his domain from his fight with Yuki Tsukumo. However, considering he is a 1000-year-old sorcerer and possesses a brain swapping technique that allows him to switch bodies by switching brains, he also likely has multiple curse techniques, so there is more information about his domain that we have yet to be seen. The next one is Sukuna's domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. As I mentioned just now, Kenjaku and Sukuna are the only sorcerers who can expand their domain without a barrier yet still retain the sure hit attack of their domain. It is described in the manga as if he is painting a masterpiece on air instead of on the canvas, which makes it a truly divine technique. Considering Sukuna is the strongest sorcerer in history, his domain is equally refined as Gojo's. Sukuna has two types of slashing attack, that is cleave and dismantle, as his curse technique. Anything with cursed energy will be slashed by cleave and any inanimate objects will be slashed by dismantle. With the domain's sure hit attack, his opponents and anything inside his domain other than himself will continuously face slashing attacks until the shrine is gone. And additionally, his domain has an effective range of 200 meters. The next one is the most powerful and strongest domain out of all, that is Gojo's domain, Infinite Void. Gojo's domain constructs outer space inside his domain, which is the inner world of Limitless. If anyone gets trapped inside it, they will have infinite knowledge flooded into their brains, leaving them frozen. If normal humans get trapped even for just 0.2 seconds, they will receive 6 months worth of knowledge, rendering them unconscious, and after 2 months of rehabilitation, they can rejoin the society. Even without his curse technique Lapse Blue, curse technique Reversal Red, and Hollow Purple, just entering his domain for 10 seconds causes a massive brain damage even to Sukuna, the strongest sorcerer in history. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, then make sure to subscribe to the channel, and to learn more about how domain expansion works, watch the video on your screen.